Welcome back to my paranormal pals. My name is Paranormal Tej and I am a haunted doll collector here to share some of my very own haunted dolls backstories with you all. Today we are shifting our focus a little bit off of the kids and we are moving on to some of our teenagers who are particularly unique and honestly quite hilarious. The first spirit we will be talking about is Omi. Omi has been with me for quite a while. She was kind of in my first batch of haunted dolls that I started collecting with, and she is just hilarious. She probably has one of the best senses of humor out of all of my spirits. She passed away when she was 18. Omi was a bit of a troublemaker. She was born in Japan, she was raised with her parents, and she got into a bit of trouble at an unusually young age, at about 10 years old. So her parents actually sent her away for boarding school, and they sent her to Europe to do so. However, Omi will not tell us why she was sent away to boarding school at such a young age. She just says, hell yes, it was a good time. So we really don't know what she did to land herself in boarding school, but we do know it was something related to her behavior. Once Omi got into boarding school, she kind of just stayed there. One of the things that she's mentioned a lot is how her parents kind of just sent her to boarding school and abandoned her there, so they really didn't come to visit her, and she remembers all of the school breaks where all of the other students would get to go home and visit their families, but she never went home, and she very often just stayed there at the school by herself. As Omi got older, she turned into quite a bit of a rebellious party girl. She got very into the rave scene in the 90s and was going out more and more. She always says that she wasn't originally into substances at all, but as she got a bit more boy crazy, she started doing things that were a bit more out of character for her, just to get the attention of boys in particular. And a lot of that was rooted in the fact that she didn't get very much attention from her parents, and so she was just seeking companionship and love. Omi's passing was entirely accidental, and frankly, she doesn't remember it or talk about it very much. So she just remembers going to the club one night, and she took some things, and before she knew it, she got really dizzy, didn't know where she was, and next thing you know, she had passed away. She really won't talk much beyond that. If you try to get serious and find out more about her story, she kind of just laughs and starts putting off jokes, so she kind of uses her humor to cover up the traumatic side of her passing. We do know that she is still here on pure will alone. I have asked her before if she was interested in crossing over, and she has said very explicitly, no, she has no interest in crossing over. She is just having too much fun here, and she wants to stay. In her afterlife, Omi tends to still be quite a character. She is usually joking. You very rarely get a serious conversation with Omi. That's just not her style. She's always cracking jokes, telling you about crazy stuff that she did, and usually talking about lights or music. Music is a huge, huge activity trigger for her. If you put on music, a lot of times she will start activating gear pretty much immediately. Her main gear that she prefers is she likes to do a lot of things with electricity. So if you give her a flashlight, she will turn it on and off continuously. She loves to operate a little disco ball piece of equipment that has a motion sensor on it. So she will just wave her hand in front of that motion sensor and set it off over and over and over again, which is super cute. And she loves to turn the radio on, especially to 90s music. Omi bonds very hard with her caregiver, and she is a very, very positive spirit. She's just like having a friend in the house, and Omi's kind of always in a good mood. You always know what to expect from her, and overall, she's just a lot of fun. You really can't talk about Omi without talking about Christy right after, because they are absolutely best friends. Prior to living here, they had the same spirit keeper before, so they've actually been together for a very, very, very long time. Christy has a totally different personality than Omi, but I think that they balance each other out really well because of that. Christy was 16 years old, and she was just a really, really sweet and creative person, and she kind of was raised during that satanic panic era, and Christy just had eclectic taste. She was kind of dressing goth, and she was dyeing her hair black, and always had a very edgy look about her. And the further she leaned into her style choices, the more that both her peers and her family kind of pulled themselves away from her. So Kristie was heavily, heavily bullied at school. She only ever had one friend whose name was Mary. It's the only friend she ever had, and everyone else really teased her. And at home, her parents, who once were very caring, simply because of the Satanic Panic era, they started pulling away from her as well, and they were scared that she was bringing Satan into their home simply because of the way that she dressed. Kristie describes how while that whole situation really was unfortunate, she still had her one friend who meant a lot to her and really supported her through everything she was going through. Unfortunately, her friend passed away from a tragic car accident, and at that point, Kristie had nobody. She had nobody at home, she had nobody at school, and she just didn't even know where to turn. So she became extremely depressed, and she took a bunch of her mom's pills and passed away in her bathtub. She remembers doing it and taking them and instantly regretting it, but knowing it was just too late. And she was there for quite a while before her family found her. She doesn't know how she inhabited her vessel. She thinks that maybe this was one of her toys when she was a kid that was in her garage and she just kind of hopped into it on accident. However, first she was actually haunting her parents' house for several years, and the longer she was there, the more unhappy of a spirit she became because she just wanted to be away from her parents at that point. So they were selling the house and she didn't know where to turn, and before she knew it, she ended up in this vessel and was dropped off at a thrift store along with a lot of her other belongings, where she was found, taken home, became extremely active right away, and was sent to an investigator to look into what was going on with her further. Kristie is by far one of our most positive, genuine, and kind spirits. She is super sensitive and is a really sweet companion and really cares about us, which I really appreciate about her. She lived a really difficult life, but she really doesn't let that show. She's extremely creative, extremely artistic, and she often likes to give creativity tips about different crafts for people to try, because she says that if she just did more crafts when she was alive, she probably would have been a lot happier and this wouldn't have happened to her, and she doesn't want anyone to end up in the situation that she ended up in. Kristie is by and large one of our most active haunted dolls we have. She moves her vessel on a near daily basis. She's basically in a different position every time we come in the room. She also really likes to move objects around her, so all of her belongings are usually knocked onto the floor, moved in different spots. She is not shy about her activity, so typically she actually is more active if we're just looking at her. The second we look at her, something starts to move around her, and she really just likes to show off in that regard. Kristie is also one of my spirits who just really loves being online. She loves to be videotaped. I can turn on a camera and say, Kristie, move something, and she absolutely will. She is highly communicative using a spirit box. She loves to chat. Her favorite song is actually They Not Like Us, and that's kind of her signature, and how we know we're talking to her on a spirit box is because the second a clip from They Not Like Us plays, we know Kristie is on the way. Although sometimes she does have a little bit of a problem with interrupting other spirit box sessions because she always wants to chat, which I just love about her. Overall, Kristie has been such an incredible addition to our home, and we feel so grateful to have her here and to also have her guidance. And then there is no other than our super goofy gal, Teri. Teri is a hoot. She is a really strange one, and I love that about her personality. She's kind of just a wild woman. Teri was basically on the run in the 60s from age 8 on. Her parents were kind of hippies. Her dad played in a band and was in a biker gang, and her mom was kind of just all over the place and wasn't the most stable person in the world. And so Teri started hitchhiking basically around the country with a couple friends at a very young age, and that continued until her death at age 16. Teri swears that her death was not an accident, but she doesn't really know for sure. She was using very heavily at the time of her passing and also before, and she always says she just knew she wasn't going to live very long, and she knew she wasn't going to have a long life, so she wanted to live it up with the time that she had, and she certainly did that. But when she did pass, she actually suspects that it was spiked with things that were given by a member of her dad's rival biker gang who was trying to get even on him, so they kind of went after Teri. Although there's really no way to know for sure, but she just kind of has different theories about what happened and whether it was an accident or if it was on purpose. No way to know for sure, but she does still stir on that, and that's kind of a part of working with Teri, is figuring out exactly what happens, because she did really want to know. However, Teri is another one of my very active spirits. Teri actually physically manifests in the house, so we see shadows of her very often, usually in a red dress, and usually she is moving very quickly. She will run and we will just see like basically a trail of red dress running through the house. She's been known to pop out on people making silly faces. Both us and guests who have been over here have seen her. People have even seen her on TikTok lives and things like that, just popping out at them. So she's just goofy and she wants to be known. She loves to communicate. She loves to chat. But she doesn't really talk about anything serious. She just kind of likes to goof around. And she also really likes to know about us. So we are very often telling Teri everything there is to know about our lives, because she's very interested in the here and now and what is going on with us personally. Teri is very big energy. I remember the first day that I got Teri, I could feel her energy in the room. It almost felt like I was in the cabin of an airplane taking off, where my ears felt like they really needed to pop, and it was just very big energy that took me a little bit to get used to. The reason why is Teri is such a hippie chick. She's actually a negative energy blocker, so she takes her job, as she calls it, very seriously, protecting us from harm and keeping negativity out of our house. Now we come to one of my subscribers' absolute favorites, Dick. He loves to be on camera, so he gets a ton of video time, and he's just a really fun guy. Dick was 17. We don't know a ton about his backstory, simply because he is not a serious spirit at all. He's a true poltergeist, and as a result, telling his story isn't super important to him. What we do know about Dick is that he was a bit of a jock, and he will describe himself as a ladies' man. He still talks about ladies all the time. I have had to move Dick's spot on the shelf several times in the time that I've had him, because he tends to develop little crushes on his shelf mates, and I will walk into his little arm propped up on another spirit's leg. So he now sits primarily with male spirits and a very tough female spirit who will not stand for that. But Dick is just a super social guy. He means no harm, but he does come off a little bit creepy because he just gets these crushes and falls in love with girls, especially my spirit Stefania. So Dick's story is basically, he was a very playful guy in the same way that he's playful now, and he was playing with his small cousins and siblings, as well as some of the neighborhood children, playing hide and seek, and he was just trying to be entertaining and picked a very crazy hiding spot where he actually got trapped, crushed, and suffocated, and he lost his life. Dick came from a very nice family, and one of the things we do know about him is that his mom was devastated and really never recovered from his passing, because they were really close, and just, it was a really, really, really hard time for his family in particular, because he was so loved and cherished. He did not come from a bad home like many other spirits do. He really came from a good home, and that's a really sad part of his story, is because he really had a lot more life to live, and I think that's why he's still here. So Dick's activity is kind of wild. Dick is basically known for noise, and a lot of noise. If there's big noise in our house, we know it came from him. Last but certainly not least is Rachel. Rachel is actually a spirit that one of my other spirits, Cheryl, led me on to. So she had told us that she really wanted her friend to come live here, and she gave us the name of a spirit who was listed online. She confirmed it was her, and so we took Rachel in. Rachel is actually a recent inhabitation, which is very interesting. She actually passed in the 2000s and was born only a few years after I was, which is very unique because a lot of the spirits in my collection come from a very, very long time ago, whereas Rachel died relatively recently. She was unfortunately very, very addicted to a variety of different substances, and she passed from an overdose in kind of a really rundown apartment. And as a result, she ended up haunting that apartment for quite a long time. And before the apartment was set to be knocked down, they actually brought in someone to cleanse the space because the apartment was so haunted that they didn't want to harm the spirit or spirits there. So they decided to do a cleanse, which was really kind of them, before knocking it down. Rachel got kind of afraid because she didn't know what would happen to her if the space that she was inhabiting was no longer present. So she hopped into whatever vessel was nearby, which actually happened to be her current vessel, which was actually an Alice in Wonderland doll. However, when she got here, she very quickly told us she would really love to look more age appropriate because she had a kind of a kid outfit. And so she asked for a purple party dress, and that is what she is in now. Rachel is one that is a little bit sneaky with her activity, so frankly, I don't know everything that Rachel can do, but I do know she moves. I've just never seen it because Rachel and Teri are really good friends, and very often when I'm in here, by the end of the night, both of them will be turned to be facing wherever I've been sitting in the room. So it's kind of turned into this game where she is undercover moving, but I can never catch her do it. She is very communicative, she's very sweet, but she does still kind of have that addict personality where she will still ask for things as offerings, and that can be a little bit difficult to manage because frankly we're just not going to do that. We do not have that kind of household. So Rachel is a really kind spirit. We really enjoy having her. She's also a really good friend to a lot of our other spirits and kind of brings the group together. And she, I do think in time, will want to cross over, but that time is not right now. Honestly, haunted doll activity from teenagers is quite interesting to live with and a really, really good time, but they are often getting into a lot of mischievous different behaviors, which is really entertaining, frankly, and they also really love to chat, so we got a lot of great communication from them. Stay tuned, we do have more teen and young adult spirits to talk about, but these were just the first 5 for you all. If you are interested in haunted doll content, please like this video, subscribe, comment, because you will continue to hear more of my own collections, personal stories, as well as different haunted histories on haunted objects throughout history and where this concept really came from.